Hello, everyone. Rhaegar the Dragonborn, and for some reason I couldn't say that in the last 5 takes, but he put out a video talking about time travel. And if I could go back in time and talk to an earlier version of myself, what advice would I give them about RPGs? What things would I say to myself to, make things better, to help improve my GMing, so on and so forth. So this is actually a pretty hard one for me, and I think it's a great topic, and I'm glad that other people are doing video responses. If you want to do a video response to this as well, I'm going to put a link down to his video down there, and then, you can do your own response. So what would I do? So I hop in the time machine, turn the knobs, say a quick prayer, and bounce back in time. So if I don't get scattered across the universe and my atoms are all in the same place, I would tell myself the first thing, Tim, that vampire group that you're gonna talk to and get to know a little bit in college, just stick it out, man. Don't be so creeped out. Don't let real world influences make you stop going to that game. And for some sort of backup and tell a little bit about that group. They were all sort of into just things that I wasn't into at the time. They had a different worldview than me, and that sort of creeped me out. And it was a good learning experience for me because in hindsight, I wish I would have done things differently. But I uh, I told the GM that I'd be back just to get out of there, and then I never talked to him again. I never went back, and it was kind of a crappy thing on my part to do. Um, and I think I went into a vampire game not really even knowing what vampire was. I was desperate for a role playing game, and up to that point, I had only really experienced Rollmaster, Lord of the Rings adventure game, and Hero Quest. So I really hadn't played a lot of different games. Um, so Vampire was a totally different mindset, coming at things in a different way. I was playing a paladin for the longest time in Rollmaster. So yeah, to say I was probably a little naive, a little sheltered, I guess, and yeah, it was just too much for me at the time, I think, and I just kind of gave into my own fears. And I wish I would have stuck it out because in hindsight, I think a lot about that group and how they really were a great group, especially when they got into character. All the other players were very patient whenever it wasn't their turn. I can look back and see that if I would have played with them, I probably would have been a better role player quicker. It sort of took me some time to play with different groups to realize that I had some things to work on. So yeah, I would tell myself to stick it out, play the vampire game. I had this Salubri character, and I don't remember why I ended up picking that clan. There's a lot of baggage with that clan, but it was a lot of fun to play that character, and I did have a good time. I couldn't get past the real world differences that we had. But these days I can pretty much play a role playing game with anyone as long as everyone is pretty much focused on the game, not really bringing a lot of real world things to the table. Not really throwing our differences in each other's faces, but focusing on things we do have in common. Role playing games. So that's the first thing. And now I have to figure out what the other ones are. All right. The next thing that I would tell myself is if I went back in time would be Tim, if you have a role playing game group that constantly doesn't communicate with you, no show, doesn't call, just doesn't even show up, bad attendance, that you should really just shut the group down because it's going to be nothing but frustration for you. And the reason I say that is I've had some gaming groups where I think that there was one gaming group in particular where I had 6 players, and on 3 separate occasions, like this baffles me just looking back, but 3 separate occasions, all 6 players didn't call and didn't show up. And I was in that awkward position where, okay, it's time. This is when everyone should be here. No one's here. And then I'm sort of like tapping my keys in my pocket, sort of tapping my foot on the ground, like, I wonder if anybody's going to show up. And then just waiting around and trying to figure out at what point do I call it a night. So I think for most of those games, like I think the first one I just waited around for an hour just in case someone showed up. And then I started to worry, like, well, what if one guy shows up? The one guy that actually, manages to come, we're not gonna be able to play. But on three occasions, nobody showed up, and it was the same group. I wish if the first time that happened, I just would have disbanded that group and not played with those guys anymore because they just put me through the ringer on several occasions, and even when they were playing, there was lots of distractions and uh, it was just hard for me. They sort of took advantage of me. They took me for granted, and all that prep work that I've been doing, all the stuff I've been doing in the background, working on a setting and all that stuff, it just kind of felt like it was wasted on them. That I was wasting my time. So I guess that's kind of it. Don't let a group like walk all over you and yeah, take you for granted, and don't put up with that level of bullshit. Because as a person, I think I tend to, like someone will slide me a bowl of shit, and I just start scooping up and oh, this is pretend like it's good. I don't know. I put up with garbage for far longer than I should. I think. I mean, someone might consider that maybe a skill that I can put up with that much crap from people, but I don't know. It's not healthy. So I wish that I would have, yeah, I would have disbanded that group, and I don't know. That I would have told myself, whenever a group treats you like that and doesn't communicate well, it's time to just call it quits. All right, for the third thing I'd tell myself, Tim, don't even attempt to get your wife to learn how to role play because it's not going to end well. Just spend your time doing other things and understand that she can have her personal hobbies and you can have your personal hobbies, and you don't have to try to involve her in everything. So it'll save yourself some grief. Another thing that I would tell myself is, Tim, instead of buying a lot of different games that you might not necessarily play, try to focus on settings. Try to focus on the details of various worlds, and you can buy splat books for those different types of settings because a lot of those games you're going to buy are going to sit on your shelf and you're really not going to have any experience with them. That being said, there are some games that were better and are being used by me now, but um, I ended up giving away a lot of those games I never played. Also, don't buy as much D20 and third edition and 3.5 stuff because at some point you're gonna get so burned out that you're not gonna want to play any of it. so, so yeah, just focus on buying like maybe like core books only, setting books, and don't worry so much about all the crunchy like player option type books that are really just going to be things that you shove under your bed to try to level it out a little bit. So, and no offense to the third edition and 3.5 players out there, but I played that game for like 10 years and I'm done. I've had my fill. So yeah, settings, core books, and don't waste your money on so much of the splat books, especially the mechanical crunchy stuff. All right, I think for the fifth thing, Tim, in various games you're going to run, make sure that your players understand what level of mature content you are going to include in your game. Don't assume that your players know what the game is like, know what the game's reputation is. Don't assume any of that stuff. And even if they say they understand, spell it out for them because on more than one occasion someone's going to say they're okay with something that they know what they're signing up for, but they really don't. It's sort of one of those things I think they just don't look into it, or they really don't know the ins and outs of a setting or the ins and outs of a particular game, and they're going to get disturbed, and there's going to be hurt feelings, and really, in your mind, you're doing what you think you're trying to do the game justice, but in their head, you go too far. So yeah, do more social contract type talks, talks about the setting, talks about the game, talk about what kind of things are going to be in that game. Make sure that your players are ready for it. And even if you do all that stuff, give players an out. Give them some form of communication to tell you Whoa, that's going over the line there, Tim. We reel that back in a little bit and get back to some content that I'm okay with. That they're okay with. Maybe like the X card or something like that. Because there have been times when I think I sort of have this shock jock sort of mentality to me, where I sort of enjoy, I guess, to some extent, shocking the players, and I think I go too far sometimes. So maybe reel that back in a little bit as well. And I think that's it. I think it's the five things. I think a lot of these things have a little bit of regrets mixed in there, but I think if I would tell myself that, I would avoid some problems, and things would have ran a little bit smoother with my with the gaming hobby. Rhaegar, thank you for an awesome video. I'm glad that I finally got to film it for you. I just had to ignore sleep today, so, uh, but I should get a nap in later, so I should be okay. And maybe I'll try to get another video filmed here pretty soon. All right, thanks a lot. I'll talk to you guys later.